So good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for coming to it's a new episode of the IULM Flow. I'm Annare, and I work at IULM University in the field of linguistic and English translation. And today we have the honor to host Rachel Launay, the country director of the British Council Italy since 2020. She began her British Council career in East Asia, Thailand, South Korea, and Hong Kong, before moving into academic management and broader cultural relations work in Portugal and then London. She worked closely with the Foreign Office in London before moving to Berlin, where she was a country director Germany for 5 years. Rachel has a first degree in French and German from East Anglia University and an MA in ELT and applied linguistics from King's College London. So it's really a pleasure to have her today here with us. She will start with a general presentation and overview of the British Council and its activities. Then we will move to a discussion in which I hope we will be able to share topics of interest for both our students and our professors. So I'm really pleased to give the floor to Rachel so that she can start her presentation. So thank you, Rachel, for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Ray, for the nice introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be invited to speak on one of your IULM Flow talks. I'm going to do a short presentation about the work of the British Council, who we are, where we work and what we do. And then I look forward to talking to Dr. Ray afterwards and having a discussion. Okay. So today we're looking at the role of the British Council in international cultural diplomacy. So what is the British Council? Well, the British Council is a UK charity. It's a non-departmental public body, which means we work with and at arm's length from the UK government. And we are the UK's organisation that builds connections, understanding and trust between people in the UK and other countries through 3 sectors: the arts, education and the English language. And it is our job to connect the UK with the rest of the world and the rest of the world with the UK. And we do this, and I'm responsible for doing this in Italy. We work with individuals, we partner with organisations and with governments. And our aim is to create mutual understanding between the people in the UK and the people that we work with in countries overseas. I thought I'd show you a picture of one of the first British Council offices. This is a centre in Liverpool. And as you can see from the title, we are quite an old organisation. We were founded in 1934 as a response to the very difficult political situation back in the Second World War. And we are nearly 90 years old. Next year we will be 90. And this picture is quite a contrast to this, which is our British Council headquarters, our head office in Stratford in London. Stratford is an area of London which hosted the London Olympic Games. So many of you will have seen that in 2012, I hope. We have 5 offices in the UK, in Manchester as well as London, and then in our other parts of the United Kingdom, in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And we are also present in over 100 other countries around the world. We've worked in Italy since 1945. And in Italy, we work across the whole of the Italian country in all regions. And we have offices in Rome, Milan, and Naples. So let's look a little bit more about what the British Council does. Here is our vision and our purpose. Very clear, very short, I think very to the point. Our vision, which we have refreshed in the last 18 months, our vision is to have a more peaceful and prosperous world built on trust. And how do we achieve that? That is our purpose. We support peace and prosperity by building connections, understanding, and trust between people in the UK and countries worldwide. So here is a summary of some of our work and our overarching activity. Here on the right, you can see a very interesting sculpture that is part of a creative hub in Istanbul. And that is an illustration of our work in arts and culture. So as I said earlier, we have 3 areas: arts and culture, education, and the English language. And we combine the UK's expertise in these areas with our global network in over 100 countries around the world. And we share our values, our UK values, our British Council values. We explore ideas, we have debates, we have difficult conversations, difficult discussions in order to build that trust and find common ground and build good, positive, friendly, mutually beneficial relationships between the people of the UK and where we work overseas. And we support individuals. We support young people to gain skills and confidence and to gain internationally recognized qualifications. We build networks. We work with governments and all our partners in education, English language, and the cultural sector across the UK and Italy. And globally, UK and the world. I thought I'd talk a little bit about soft power. Soft power is the area of our work in relation to, if we compare it to hard power anyway, soft power is the area of work that our British Council activity is most strongly aligned. But what is soft power? This was a phrase, a concept that was coined by Joseph Nye a few decades ago. A country's soft power is its ability to make friends and influence people through its most attractive assets: culture, education, language, and values. And we have done quite a lot of research at the British Council about the impact of this type of influence on the relationship that then those people have with that country. So English, education, and culture are the top 3 factors in supporting the UK's overseas reputation. And there's a very clear relationship between trust in a country and the increase in which a person would like to do business, would like to study, or would like to visit that country. In fact, in our studies, the level of trust in the UK was 16% higher if a person or an institution had participated in activities in either language, education, or culture compared to those who had not. So here are some examples of our 3 core areas of work and the 3 sectors that we work in. First, I'd like to talk about arts and culture. here I say arts and culture for creative expression and enterprise. The British Council really works to demonstrate and create opportunity for the new and the innovative in terms of showing the world what the UK has to offer and building relationships between arts institutions overseas and in the UK. Here on the left, this is an example of some our visual arts, our showcasing this is a British art exhibition in Turkey. And we have our cultural work spans all art forms, visual arts, performing arts, music, architecture, museums, the creative industries, and dance. And on the right, you can see a disabled artist who is performing. And we do a lot of work, and particularly in Italy in the last 18 months, to integrate disabled artists into the performing arts. And we are working with the Ministry of Culture in Italy and with our Arts Council England and the Italian Cultural Institute in London to work together for dance residencies for disabled artists. And this is a new programme that is starting in 2023. And the London Olympics and the Paralympics and the Cultural Olympiad were really the beginning of a huge project which focuses on the arts, the disability in the arts agenda. And this picture is Unlimited, the Unlimited Dance Company, who are performing. It's called Making the Right Moves. Our second area is education, and we work across a whole range of different areas of education, higher education, schools, with governments, curriculum reform, and so on. And our objective is to empower people and develop strong and inclusive communities. There are two examples here. One is through mobility. On the left, this is to illustrate students who are learning together, and I'll talk a little more about that in a moment, but really supporting students to go from, for example, from Italy to study in the UK, supporting researchers to do the same. Here on the right is an example of a wonderful English language project in Nigeria. And so we are supporting educational reform in many countries, working with other agencies and supporting them to achieve their objectives. I thought you might be interested, those of you who are watching, in the Study UK information. This is a screenshot, but there you have at the top the website address, study-uk.britishcouncil.org. And here you can find all the information about studying in the UK. Italy is one of the most interested countries in studying in the UK. In fact, up to 2 years ago, Italy was one of the highest sending countries. We had so many students from Italy going to the UK. And we still do a lot of work in Italy to support any students who are interested in studying in a British university. Our third area is the English language, and this includes English language learning and English language assessment or exams. So in terms of English, our objective is to achieve more widespread and better knowledge of English. And here we have two examples of how we do this. On the left, we teach English across many countries across the world. In fact, in 2021, 37 million learners engaged with the British Council in English language learning, both face-to-face, as you have here on the left, in classrooms, in schools, across, and we do this across Italy, in Rome, Milan, and Naples, or on the right, connecting and learning language through digital means. Of course, through the COVID pandemic, this was super important. In fact, all of our English language teaching was put online in order for our students to still be able to learn English despite the pandemic situation. And connecting cultures is a big project for us. The British Council connects students in our classrooms in Italy, for example, with students in other countries. So they have an experience of meeting other learners of English, but from different cultures. And it's such an interesting encounter for them to learn about each other's lives, learn about each other's everyday, and to meet other people who are learning English for probably similar reasons. Where maybe it's to get a better job, maybe it's to do better in your studies at school, maybe it's to be able to go and study at an English-speaking university. So sharing across cultures is a very big part of our learning English activity at the British Council. And then we have English language exams or English language assessment. We manage and deliver many different kinds of exams, English language exams and professional exams across the world. This is an example of one of the most popular and important exams that we deliver as the British Council. And this is the IELTS test, the International English Language Testing System. Many of you watching may have heard of IELTS. It is the gateway, the door opener to studying English, to studying in an English-speaking university or institute of higher education, not only in the UK, but also in America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and in some European countries. IELTS is also required to study on a course, which could be in the Netherlands, but where English language is the language of the degree course that you're taking. So this is an overview in just under 15 minutes of our work as a global organization, with a few mentions of Italy. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Okay.
And then have a conversation with Dr. Ray. I hope that was that was
just really clear, and thank you for sharing this presentation. Yes, I would love to ask you something about your job and your career. So how actually the British Council helped you, gave you opportunities in your career, and what do you think about this? And what can you tell about this?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, the British Council has provided me personally with incredible opportunity. I started working for the British Council quite a long time ago now. 27 years ago, I started as a teacher, an English language teacher in Hong Kong. And that is my professional background. And we have thousands and thousands of English language teachers around the world. It's one of our, as you can see from my presentation, one of our core activities. And from that, I have moved into different areas of work. In fact, I think I've worked in every area that I talked about today. And the variety of our work and the objective of our organisation to build trust between people in the UK and people of other countries is something that's very important for me. As you said at the beginning, Anna, I did a degree in languages when I was very young. Language learning and the ability to communicate with people from other cultures and countries is super important. And that's what my job is about. I'm very lucky that my job is all about connections and building trust and understanding. So as a country director in Italy, I support my colleagues who work directly in language learning, language assessment, the arts and education, to build those connections, to help make the Italy British Council operation work smoothly, to make sure that we are growing in our ambitions, that we're reaching a lot of people who live in Italy and supporting them with all of those areas: connections, language learning, education, and so on. So it's a real privilege and an honour to work for the British Council. It's an incredibly worthy organisation that does so much good around the world.
Yeah, well, I would say that since you are in Italy now,
Sure.
maybe you can tell us something about the specific activities that you are promoting in Italy, and maybe that can be of interest for our students and our community, university community.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Well, your university community is in Milan.
Yeah.
And one of our we have three. We work from Milan and Rome and Naples for our English language teaching and delivering our exams. And we have connections right across the country for education and culture. We've been in Italy for nearly 80 years. British Council started in 1945. So we have gone through many types of progress and change as the world has changed, as technology has changed. You can imagine that back in, 50 years ago, we didn't teach English digitally and online, but we do a lot of that now. Not just because of COVID, but because our lives have been transformed by the digital revolution. And we deliver a lot of our exams online as well, to make it easy for students to access and to be able to take a test. I think one of the for students who are watching this, I imagine that they might be interested in having a connection with the UK in terms of studying overseas. That's possible. On my presentation, I had a slide on Study UK, where there's a lot of information, and I think we can share those links afterwards with any students who are interested. And also information about the IELTS exam, which is the gateway to studying in an English-speaking university. We can certainly provide information about that. And it's possible to take IELTS anywhere in Italy. It's very, very flexible from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
If that's, I'll stop there and see if there's anything else specifically you'd like.
If you have something to add, just finish.
No. That was those are the main things.
Yes, this is a common question. That students ask us to how can we go to the United Kingdom and study there. So thank you for sharing this information about visa and also certification that students need to access university in the UK. Something that I'm really interested in, and I think you are too, as for what I know, is the role of the English language, which has become the world language. And I know that you have done a lot of study and research on this, and so I would be really interested to know your position on this role of English around the world, which I think was also somehow pushed after the Second World War with the work of Churchill and the United States that actually wanted to have people learn English. So what do you think about the global English nowadays? And also, I would ask you something about what is happening to English, since there are so many people speaking English, and so also varieties of English developing. So what do you think about this very huge topic? So if you can just give us your main opinion about what is happening to English, the English language nowadays.
Well, that's such an interesting question, Dr. Ray. Yes, I am very interested in this whole topic from a number of different perspectives. I think let me start with you talked about how important the English language is in the world, and it is a super important language, and our job as a British Council is to help provide and develop the skills of those young people, not so young people, who need English for their futures. We know that there is a significant difference in employability in Italy if you have English as one of your languages. It's a skill that's highly sought after by employers. So we know that this is super important to equip young people, school leavers, university leavers, with that kind of competence, B2 and above, in order to be employable and get a good job. So there's no question that there is an importance to the English language. I would like to say, but that doesn't make other languages unimportant. On the contrary, I think that this is such an interesting area where recently I've worked with a colleague and a partner in the Ministry of Education in Italy, who is very interested in the idea of plurilingualism. So being communicatively competent in several languages is arguably more important than being an expert in one, because it allows you to be able to communicate effectively with more people, i.e. people from different cultures who have different languages, that door may be closed to you if you were an expert in only one or two. So the idea of plurilingualism, not being an expert, but being able to communicate more broadly, is a very interesting one when it comes to the role of the English language. I think that you referred to, and this is super interesting, that because English has become the global language of business, business communication, there is a very big area of research, and it's an academic topic, and it has a name, which is ELF, English as a Lingua Franca, not to be confused with EFL, which is English as a foreign language. So if we think about ELF just for a moment, English as a Lingua Franca, there are different schools of thought about, how important is it that I'm just giving an example, that a business person from Colombia talking to a business person from Japan pronounces English in a way which is not standard British English or standard American English, but has a variety and is influenced by either their Spanish mother tongue from Colombia or their Japanese mother tongue from Japan. As long as they can understand each other, it doesn't really matter if they say the, as I would say the as a as an English native speaker, or they say f instead of the, or z instead of the. Does it really matter? In my view, it doesn't matter at all. But there are different schools of thought about the variety of pronunciation that comes through if you are non-native speaker using English as a lingua franca. So I think there's that area, which is interesting. And then we have already so many varieties of the English language that have been established for many, many, many years, and not least in my own country. There are varieties of English, one could say, accents that actually, and sometimes almost dialects. In Scotland has accent, has dialect. Ireland has accent and some dialect. And we go to America, which is another variety of English, Australia, New Zealand, the English that's spoken in India, where English was the first language for many, many years for historical reasons. There are so many varieties of English that make English language such an interesting hot pot, if you like, of variety, which gives it the spice, and I would like to say makes it a global language because of the varieties that it has, and because it allows that communication between people from other countries. But we mustn't forget how important it is that it is not the most important. It isn't the most important language. It is a very important language for many, many reasons, but it's no more important than all the other languages that are the mother tongue of those people around the world who also can speak English.
Yeah, I would add a word to what you said about English as a lingua franca. So the word intelligibility. Mm-hmm. So as far as we understand each other, it's fine. Of course, I would say you as the British Council the British Council has to teach British English, of course, but we are becoming more and more aware of the fact that English is developing in different ways, and we can even speak about Englishes in the plural and not English in the singular, because well, what is happening around the world, it's easy to understand. And also the fact that nowadays native speakers are less than non-native speakers. So there's the majority of people speaking English around the world are non-native speakers. And I don't know, but in the long term, I feel like this will influence the native speaker. But this is a question for you. So I wonder what you think about this.
I think inevitably it will influence the English language, as in one of the English languages. As you say, there are several Englishes, or many Englishes, one could say. We see that all the time, don't we? How the lexicon, the English lexicon changes, and the dictionaries are updated. And the corpuses are updated with new words that come into the English language, either through movements like the technology, the technology explosion, which has added a whole range of vocabulary and lexis into the English language. And often those words are also used without translation in other languages, aren't they? So it is, and there are words that are that exist in the English language already for years and years that have come from other languages. I mean, in English we use a number of French words as part of our own English language lexis, like cul-de-sac and en route, and a whole number of different words, and not just French. They come from the languages used in India, of which there are many. We have German words that are used in English, and so on. So why not have, as you suggest, that as English becomes more and more widely used, and there are more non-native speakers of English than native speaker, that these Englishes are that they influence the English language that I speak, for example, just to give an answer. I mean, yes, just to give an example, I mean, yes, I think it's very possible.
Another topic that it's quite important and quite discussed, I would say, is refers to the teaching of English. So do you think that a teacher of a language should be a native speaker teacher?
Yeah, that's as you say, another hot topic. I think that what is important is that the teacher of English, yes, has the English language competence and the pedagogical training to be an excellent teacher. To have both of those things doesn't mean to say that you are a native speaker of that language. As a language learner myself, it was actually through learning French and German are my main languages. It was through learning those languages that I learnt about grammar. I am able to explain the grammar of those languages from a very young age. When I trained to teach the English language, I realized that I didn't have that grammatical language, or the language which goes with the description of grammar, syntax, lexis, and so on, to use when I was teaching, and I had to learn it. When you learn a language, you have a whole vocabulary that is attached to that language in terms of its makeup and its structures, and you understand the building blocks of how that language is made, and it makes you a much better understander of why the language is difficult and how to explain to a learner as to how that works. As a native speaker, you don't necessarily have that awareness, knowledge, expertise, actually, of how the language works. And there are many non-native speakers who, because of that, and because of many other things, are excellent teachers of English. So I absolutely believe that non-native speaker teachers should be teachers of English, as long as they meet those criteria in terms of competence and pedagogical competence as well. And we have many non-native speaker teachers of English who work for the British Council all around the world. It doesn't mean to say it's not controversial. It's still a controversy, and we know that students and other stakeholders, parents of our children who learn with us, it's something that we work on, because we believe that these teachers are just as excellent as our native speaker teachers, and it's about breaking down perceptions about this and demonstrating their excellence as teachers and their excellence with the English language.
Yeah, I agree. I had a similar experience when I was a graduate student, and I was asked to teach Italian to American students. And I found out that I didn't know a lot of grammatical rules.
Yeah.
Because it was just natural to say something in that way. And
Yeah.
it was really, I had to study. I had to study to teach to the American students why the Italian language works in a certain way, why you have to use pronouns and articles in a certain way, because it's something that you do because it's certain expression, a certain grammatical feature. So it's a problem for native speakers, and so to teach their language. So I would ask you a last question. Then I don't know if some of our viewers are interested to comment or to add something to our discussion. So I wonder, what about teachers? So how teachers, language teacher, can find resource and take advantage of the British Council activities and heritage, what you have, your sources, your resources, and so on.
Yeah, good question. We have a lot of resources online, both for students who are learning English and for teachers of English. Our website, and maybe if I put this in the chat or I leave it with you afterwards so you can share it with the audience, we have, it's very simple. It's called Learn English and Teach English. These are the two websites. If you Google Learn English British Council, Teach English British Council, it will come up with a whole range of materials. You can, if you're a teacher, that you can search by topic, by grammatical point, there's a whole range of materials there, and the same for students. And we have a range, though, as students, you can there are a lot of free resources, but you can also sign up for resources, paid for resources. You get more access, and you can sign up for online courses and have a real life teacher face to face on a screen. There's a whole range of options that you can research, but there's a lot out there for students and for teachers, and a lot for teachers of English in schools, primary school, secondary schools. In Italy, for example, there's a lot of material out there as well for those teachers in schools, as well as those teachers who may be teaching at university level as well.
Great. So thank you very much. Just out of curiosity to close this conversation. So did you have the feeling that because of the pandemic and the fact that people couldn't actually go abroad and exercise, practice English, so do you have the feeling that there was a decrease in competence of English among your students, so that the fact that they couldn't really go abroad and practice English has influenced the level of English of your students?
In my view, no. No, I don't think so. We were able to very quickly transfer all of our face-to-face teaching, our face-to-face lessons. We transferred everything into an online teaching experience, just like the schools did across Italy and across the world. Yeah, we did the same. We did the same for our English language teaching. So, although of course it wasn't the same experience, it was a different kind of learning experience, wasn't it? Or isn't it? when we learn online, but there wasn't so much of a gap or a pause in the language learning. I think what I can say is that we see, going back into the classroom in September last year was the first time as a director in Italy that I had experienced a normal academic year, because arriving in 2020, just before the pandemic, academic year 2020 and 21 were very affected by, online learning, and there was very little in presenza learning, or it was staggered. It was quite complicated. And I think what we see is the kind of the relief and the enthusiasm, particularly of our young learners. We teach kids from very young up to 18, and they and their parents are just super pleased that we can be together and learn in a physical environment again, and really enjoy it. And our teachers, my colleagues, absolutely loved going back into the classroom. I think that they did such an amazing job, my colleagues, at managing these online lessons, and they became very expert at it, but they have loved being back with their students in class. I think it's been, it's been a real pleasure to have that feeling of togetherness and community again, which I think we're all seeking, right? Not just in the classroom, but with each other, outside work, outside learning, but in our lives with our families and friends. It's still something that we consciously appreciate after a long period of difficulty with the pandemic.
Yeah. And so this is, hopefully we will have the chance to host you at IULM University.
Well, it would be my pleasure. Thank you.
It would be very nice to meet you and to have you at IULM University. And yes, I would say that I would finish with this. If there are any comments that we can discuss, I don't know if it's possible to let me know. Otherwise, I would thank you very much for your nice presentation, for letting us know what you are doing as a British Council in Italy, and thank you for being here today. And we will share the link and the information that you are you were telling us to our university community. So thank you for being here, and thank you to all the viewers for being here this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ray. Very nice to be here. Lovely to meet you. And greetings to everybody who's watching.
Okay.
Thank you
very much.